Hi, I'm Kristin, and I'm a certified Lamaze childbirth educator. This is a free online series of childbirth education classes based on the Lamaze Healthy Birth Practices. You'll get the most value by watching all the classes in the series in order, and you can visit my channel for the full playlist. If you find these video classes helpful, please like the video and subscribe to this channel, and consider donating via PayPal using the link in the description. If you'd like to take group childbirth classes in person with me, there's also a link in the description that shows you how to sign up. As always, keep in mind that the content in these classes does not constitute medical advice. Let's get started. Thank you for joining me for Class 2 of Childbirth Education for Your Best Birth. Let's do a quick recap about the previous class, class number 1. We're looking at pregnancy anatomy. And the uterus is that large muscle. It's normally not that large. It's normally about fist-sized inside a non-pregnant woman. But of course, we see here how big it's capable of getting as it holds the baby, cradles it, and then performs an important role of helping to push the baby out when it's time for birth. And then the amniotic sac is, it has a thin membrane, and it is full of fluid, amniotic fluid. And this is what the baby swims in and bathes in every day of pregnancy. And this provides this wonderful, warm, and nourishing environment for the baby. And an interesting fact is that often if a mother eats strongly flavored foods, it will actually affect the flavor of the amniotic fluid, which the baby constantly gulps. And even breathes in. So if you enjoy eating a food with a particularly strong flavor, your baby has already tried tasting it through the amniotic fluid in the amniotic sac. We see the gray umbilical cord near the baby's belly, and this is what connects the baby to the placenta, and the placenta connects to the uterus. And this is how the baby receives nutrients from the mother's body. And like I mentioned, there's the placenta back there. That is the dinner plate-sized organ that is attached to the inside wall of the uterus. And as I mentioned in the previous class, after a mother gives birth, she then delivers her placenta. And that placenta is about the size of a dinner plate. So you have to keep in mind that that mother has a dinner plate-sized wound on the inside of her uterus. And this is why it's so important for mothers to get the rest that they need and the help that they truly deserve after baby is born, because it's a lot of work to recover from something like that. And then the cervix. We've talked about the very important role of the cervix. It's normally just kind of a small rubbery little tube that feels like about the tip of your nose, normally when you are not in labor or giving birth. And this cervix, as it effaces, which that is the term for it getting very, very thin, almost paper thin, and then dilating, which is so incredibly important for birth, dilating to 10 centimeters so that baby's head can fit through. The cervix plays a pretty important role in all of labor and birth. Now, let's recap the 4 P's of labor and birth from the previous class. And again, if you have not seen the first class, please go back and check it out. You will get the most value from this series of childbirth education classes by watching all of them in order. So the 4 P's of labor and birth. We're going to start with the powers. You see that very hard-working little uterus there in the upper left corner of our diagram. And she's working hard. She's tightening, she's compressing, and she's pushing that baby out during birth. And then we have the passage. The passage is all of the birth canal, so this includes soft tissues like the vagina and the cervix, but it also includes those bony tissues, or the bony parts of the pelvis. The pelvis has a little bit of flexibility to it, and we will talk more about that later, but you still have the constraints of that bony structure there that baby needs to navigate its head through. Our next P is passenger. That's our lovely, adorable little baby there. And that baby is not a passive part of this whole process. That baby plays an active role in helping itself be born. It, first of all, as we talked about in the first class,
it's the baby is the one that sends signals to mom saying, my lungs are mature and it's time for me to be born. And then baby also works very hard to position itself so that it can move its head through the birth canal, rotate, and then come out the birth canal. And the fourth P is psyche. That is the mother's state of mind. And this is such a crucial part of it. It's just as important as all the other elements of birth. And that's because the mother's mental well-being, her confidence, her sense of well-being with where she is and who she's with are absolutely crucial. I occasionally work as a doula, as my schedule allows. And I had a client who once was in early labor, and she asked me to come to her to help her cope with early labor. And so I did. And the funny thing was, as soon as I arrived, her contractions then immediately became regular. They were kind of all over the board initially, and it was stressing her out a little bit. Once I got there, her mind got into the right place. She knew I was there to support her. And her body cooperated with her mind, and it began to regulate her contractions. So they became very regular and very productive for her. And also, another recap from class number 1, we talked about dilation and effacement a little bit in the diagram of pregnancy anatomy. We'll go over this again quickly. So we see here on the left side our black diagram of the cervix. You see how it kind of pokes down a little bit, and again, it feels a little bit like the tip of your nose if you were to touch it. And in early labor, it is either not open and not thinned at all, or very slightly thinned and very slightly open. And it is so important for that cervix to efface, which is to become thin, before it dilates. The cervix really can't dilate productively without that thinning, that effacement. So you'll see there in the second image from the left, in early labor, that cervix is beginning to thin and separate a little bit. Then in active labor, you see it's getting much thinner, and you can actually see the baby's head a little bit through the hole there as the dilation occurs. And in transition, when the mother is approaching the pushing stage, you can see that the cervix becomes very, very thin, almost paper thin, and it opens up to 8 to 10 centimeters. And 10 centimeters is ultimately what you need for that baby to be able to be pushed out. So let's recap the importance of the statement, whenever possible, let labor begin on its own. Now, why? Why is that important? That's because baby's lungs are ready for birth. We know this because baby sends hormonal signals to the mother's body at the moment its lungs become mature enough to breathe room air, and then the mother's body kicks into gear and starts the labor process. We also know in that process that as those messages are being sent from the baby to the mother, and the mother is then releasing hormones, the uterus becomes very sensitive to those hormones and immediately wakes up and says, okay, it's time. It's my role to push this baby out. We also know that those hormonal messages include prolactin that tells the mother's breasts to get ready to start producing breast milk for that baby. So the baby will have nourishment once it's out in the bigger world. So let's play a game. What are the trimesters? A pregnancy is divided into 3 trimesters. What are the weeks in the first trimester? Let's take a look at our choices. Week 1 to week 20, week 6 to week 18, week 1 to week 12, or week 4 to week 16. So I'll give you a moment to think about it, and I want you to make your guess, and then I'll show you the answer. All right. So what is our answer? It is week 1 to week 12. If you got it right, kudos to you. You deserve a little piece of candy. If I could, I would reach through the screen and give you a Hershey Kiss or something yummy like that. So what are the weeks in the second trimester? Let's look at our choices. Week 12 to week 28, week 13 to week 26, week 12 to week 20, or week 14 to week 32. What's your choice? I'll give you a moment to think about it. All right. So what do you think the answer is? Let's find out. It is week 13 to week 26. If you got that right, kudos to you. High five through the screen. All right, let's move on to what are the weeks in the third trimester? Our choices: week 27 to week 40, week 28 to week 36, week 30 to week 40, and week 27 to week 42. I'll give you a moment to think about what the answer might be. All right, have you made your decision? Let's find out what the answer is. Oh, it's a trick question. It is both week 27 to week 40 and week 27 to week 42. So how can that be? How can the third trimester be two different answers? Well, that's because pregnancy can go potentially to 42 weeks. Now, I don't necessarily wish that upon anyone. I have had a client or two who has gone over her due date and gotten very, very close to 42 weeks of pregnancy. But there are ways to cope with it, and they are incredibly brave, strong women, and they handled it beautifully. So, yes, while pregnancy is typically measured as being 40 weeks, it can be as long as 42 weeks. So the answer is both A and D. If you got one of those correct, kudos to you. Another high five through the screen. All right, so another review, because this is one of the most common questions that I get from new mothers. How do you know when you're in true labor? So what do true contractions look and feel like? They may be irregular early on, but they will become regular over time. And when I say over time, this can be several hours. As I mentioned, I had a client who was having very irregular early labor contractions, and this went on for, I'm thinking it was more than 12 hours. And then when I showed up, they became very regular. When I showed up at her home to help her through the labor process, her contractions became regular. So they may become regular just naturally on their own. They may become regular after just a few hours. It's different in every woman. It's different in every labor. I will say that while you may have had an experience with one labor, you will probably have a different experience with another subsequent labor. So, but the key is true contractions may be irregular initially, but they will become irregular over several hours. True contractions will get longer, they will get stronger, and they will get closer together over many hours. And when I say longer, they will typically get up to around a minute in length. They can go over, they could go a minute and a half. They can get very strong and intense, and they can get closer together over many hours. They may be 15 minutes apart for a few hours, and then they may move to 10 minutes apart for another few hours. And then eventually they will get quite close together so that you may have just a few minutes between each contraction that you're having. The key to that you will be asked over and over, and I know so many new mothers get so tired of hearing this from their doulas and their midwives and their OBs and their labor and delivery nurses. You will undoubtedly hear this question when you call and you talk to the people who are helping you have your baby. They will say, "Can you talk during your contractions?" And the reason for this is that when you're in early labor and you're having contractions, you can talk through them. You can say, "Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that's a contraction. Yeah." Once you start getting into active labor, and these contractions are getting much more intense, much stronger, much more productive. They are truly effacing and dilating your cervix. it will get to the point where you will be unable to talk, and to anyone, to your nurse, to your partner, to other loved ones. You will simply stop. You will be completely focused and go inward. You will be experiencing that contraction, and you will not be able to speak. And you will know at that moment, immediately you will recognize, this is active labor. Walking can also make true contractions stronger. As we mentioned in class number 1, when you are experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions, which are also called practice contractions, they will typically go away if you change positions, if you're lying down or sitting down, or if you get up and start walking around. Braxton Hicks will then discontinue. They will no longer go on. However, true contractions, they are a sign of labor is here, it's time. Walking will actually make them stronger. And just the opposite of Braxton Hicks, if you lie down, if you're feeling a contraction, that contraction will not go away when you lie down and rest. This is so incredibly important, and I really stress this to every mother who is going through labor for the first time. And of course, anyone who is going through it in subsequent pregnancies. Listen to your body in early labor. And I really, really encourage you to rest as much as you possibly can. Early labor is a time where you can still talk during your contractions. You can still move around and do things during contractions. And you can also sleep between contractions. For one of my own births, I was actually able to, in early labor, I was actually able to sleep about 10 minutes at a stretch between every contraction. The contraction would then wake me up. As soon as it was over, I would fall back to sleep, and then I would sleep for another 10 minutes until that contraction kicked in again. And it was wonderful. It helped me to rest and to prepare for the real hard work of active labor later. It was not a challenge for me. My body was tired. It was the middle of the night, and my body said, hey, you got to sleep. So I strongly encourage you to sleep in between contractions in early labor. Rest when you're tired, and eat and drink fluids when you need to. Do not deprive yourself. If you're hungry, eat. If you're thirsty, drink. And in fact, just go ahead and take a small drink with every contraction, at least. I strongly recommend that. If you feel a contraction, you work through it, and then when it's over, you have your water bottle near you, you grab it, you take a drink, and then you wait for the next contraction. It's a wonderful practice. Work in some gentle stretching like prenatal yoga. Be very gentle on your body. If you're feeling very tired, then rest. If you don't feel like stretching, don't do it. Some mothers in all parts of labor do not want to eat any kind of food. That's perfectly understandable. You may need to eat later in active labor so that you have the energy to get to the pushing phase. But if you're not feeling like eating, don't force yourself. Take time to relax in early labor and visualize your best birth. This goes along with the 4th P in our 4 Ps of labor and birth. When you are visualizing your best birth, you are using the psyche part of the 4 Ps to their very fullest. You want to constantly imagine in your brain what your birth is going to look like, what you want it to be, how you are going to push your baby out, how you are a strong person, and you can visualize your cervix opening up and allowing your baby to come into the world. It's so important to not compare your labor to any other labor you've had and anyone else's labor. Every labor is different, no matter what. Even in the same person, it's different. And so you don't want to just assume, oh, it was so hard the first time, it's going to be so hard the second time. That's not necessarily true. And if your friend had an easy labor, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an easy labor. Hopefully you do. But if your friend, if she had a hard labor, it does not mean that you will have a hard labor. And I say this to all of my childbirth education students and any doula client that I work with. Birth is a marathon, not a sprint. Do not deprive yourself of food, drink, or rest during all of it, because it can be a very long process and you will be working very hard. So how do you know when to go to the hospital? One of the challenges is that if you go to the hospital too soon, they will tell you, you're not dilated enough, you need to go home. And that can be so demoralizing. It's very, very hard to say, all right, I'll get back in my car and I'll go back home. When as you were leaving your home, you were probably saying to yourself, when I come back to this place, I'm going to have my baby in my arms. And if you are returning after being turned away by the labor and delivery department, it can just be so discouraging, and you can shed some tears about it. So here is a guideline for you. For a first baby, your contractions should be occurring every 5 minutes reliably. They should not be 5 minutes and then 8 minutes and then 4 minutes and then 12 minutes and then 7 minutes and then 5 minutes. They should be every 5 minutes, that you could literally set a timer by them. When you are having contractions every 5 minutes reliably, that is a sign that you might need to go to the hospital. Your contractions every 5 minutes should last about 1 minute. Now, it's possible that they could be 45 seconds occasionally. It could be that they are a minute and a half occasionally. But the important thing is that they're going to be somewhere around 1 minute in length. And this every 5 minutes lasting about 1 minute needs to happen for a minimum of 1 hour. When you have been timing your contractions and you see that you've got in your little app, your contraction timing app, which I recommended in class 1, your contraction timing app gives you the report and says, you've been having these contractions every 5 minutes for 1 minute, about 1 minute in length, and this has been happening for 1 hour. It is time for you to call labor and delivery and tell them that you're coming in. Remember, 5-1-1. Every 5 minutes, lasting about 1 minute, and happening regularly for 1 hour. So why is relaxation important during pregnancy and birth? I've talked some about the 4th P, psyche, and I've talked about the importance of visualization. That's because stress can intensify your pain and discomfort, and it can even stop labor and birth. If, let's pretend a cave woman is giving birth, and all of a sudden a saber-toothed tiger shows up, I think they're saber-toothed cats, shows up on the scene. She will immediately, her body will release stress hormones, and that will stop her labor at that moment, because it's simply not safe for her to be going through labor, giving birth, and not being able to function for about a minute at a time because of a contraction she's experiencing. So to save her life, stress hormones stop her labor in the effort of getting her to a safe place so that she can begin labor later. So stress will always create more pain and discomfort, and it can also stop labor and birth. The ideal birth environment will include these items, and really try to assemble a collection of items to take to your birth environment and set them up in the early parts of active labor so that the mother can be very comfortable while she's giving birth. You want the lighting to be low. So if you have very bright lights on in the room where you're giving birth, turn those, see if there is a slider, and you can turn the intensity of that lighting down. You can even turn off some switches, only leave one light on. I have done that before. I had the wonderful honor to help a mother give birth at a birthing center here locally, where they had many battery-powered candles in the room. And these beautiful battery-powered candles were so gorgeous because they flicker almost like they're real candles, and they're very low light, and you can move them anywhere in the room. It was a wonderful experience. You want to have only supportive and loving friends and family present. Now, for some people, that may be that they want 10 people at their birth. For other people, it may be that they only want 2 or 3. Maybe they only want themselves and their partner. Maybe they want their partner and a doula. Maybe they want one other family member and their partner present at their birth. That mother gets to decide who's going to be at her birth. And you want to make sure that everybody who's there is 100% supportive and loving and not judgmental. There needs to be a low noise level. Many mothers really want low music. They may choose to have new agey synthesizer music that continually loops while she's giving birth. I had classical music at one of my births, and that was a wonderful experience. But whatever you have, you want low noise level. You don't want loud talk, and you don't want loud noises, loud banging, or anything like that. You want few people walking in and out of the room. Having people coming in and out of the room can be a distraction to the mother, and that distraction can slow labor down. It can also stress her out. Why does this feel like Grand Central Station, that sort of thing. So you really want to keep things very, very calm. And you want low medical intervention. The more intervention you introduce into a birth, the more stressful it's going to be for the mom, and the more decisions she has to weigh in her mind and decide upon for her own birth. So you want to try to go for low medical intervention so that birth can happen the way it's meant to happen, the way it's happened for Homo sapiens for thousands of years, and is the most supportive way of that mother being able to push her baby out herself. So I want to ask the question, and I want you to spend some time doing some self-reflection. How do you relax? Is it listening to music? And what kind of music would that be that would most relax you? This is so important for you to ask of yourself. And it's going to differ from person to person. You may have a really interesting, peculiar kind of music that really relaxes you, and that's okay too. Make sure that you listen to that a lot during the later part, the third trimester of your pregnancy, and throughout your labor. This is the kind of thing that your brain will be trained. When it hears this music, it will know that it's time to work hard and it's time to move this baby out. Does meditation, breathing exercises, or yoga relax you? Breathing exercises most likely do. And there are a lot of different exercises you can do that activate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is it's the longest nerve in the body. It goes from your brain and goes down into every major part of your body. It touches virtually all of your important organs. And when you practice breathing exercises on a regular basis, which is the kind of thing you do in yoga, you're supposed to have a breath practice in any yoga practice. This will actually teach your brain to relax every part of your body. So some other options for activating your vagus nerve include gargling, if you wanted to go gargle some water. Also singing. I encourage you to sing. That will definitely activate your vagus nerve. Of course, I mentioned yoga. And something else that we really encourage in labor is do not do high sounds when you're feeling pain or discomfort in your contractions. Don't go high. You want to go low. You want to have, during your contractions, you want to have a lower kind of sound. Really use those low sounds. And those are the sounds, the energy will go down into your body and help your body work more productively to push that baby out. How about massage? Do you like having your shoulders rubbed? Do you like having your feet rubbed? Do you like having your hand held and massaged? Do you like having someone stroke your arm? Think about those things that really help you relax and practice those things before you go into labor so you can determine what's going to help you feel better. Something that's also helpful, it can be helpful for some mothers, not everyone, during labor, is firm pressure. And we'll talk more about pressure points later on in this series. I'll show you some pressure points that you can practice before you go into labor and see how you feel about them. And then you can have your partner or your doula or both of them use those pressure points to help you relax and to help you feel less discomfort. So is it possible to have a pain-free labor and birth experience? I have heard that it's possible to not feel pain during labor. Although it's one of those rumors that goes around. I have not actually known anyone who has had a pain-free labor and birth experience. However, I do want to stress to anyone who might be feeling fear about the pain that's involved in labor is that labor pain is pain with a purpose. And that is something very different than you may be used to in life. There are times earlier in labor when contractions may feel somewhat like intense period cramps. However, the difference between period cramps and contractions, productive active labor contractions, are the difference between them is that the labor contractions are pain with a purpose. And what that means is that your body is working very hard to help you have your baby in your arms by, let's say, within 24 hours. And that alone can be so empowering and so encouraging for mothers when they're having really intense contractions. When she's reminded that this contraction may feel really, really hard, but this is the contraction that's really opening up your cervix, that's really bringing your baby down, that's really going to help you have your baby in your arms in just a little bit. So pain with a purpose, keep that in the back of your mind. And that can often help reduce the amount of discomfort that you have with each contraction. So like I mentioned, a pain-free labor and birth is rare, but you can make it more comfortable with these comfort techniques. So let's take a look at comfort techniques for labor. Slow breathing and visualization. And this all goes along with that fourth P of the 4 Ps of labor and birth. Slow breathing and visualization help to activate your vagus nerve, which naturally relaxes your body. And visualization helps you stay completely focused on the goal at hand, opening up your cervix and bringing your baby down into your cervix. Some other physical tools to bring you comfort are massage, like I mentioned, and you'll be able to, before you go into labor, you'll be able to practice with a partner or your doula, massage that brings you relief. And I'll share pressure points also at a later time. And a TENS unit. I don't know if you're familiar with a TENS unit. I do have one. It's quite nice. This is something that I don't think was really used for birth until maybe 10 or 15 years ago in the United Kingdom. There were research studies that were held that put TENS units into labor and delivery rooms, into the actual laboring rooms. And mothers got to try them. And so what they did was they put a TENS unit pad, one on each side of the spine on the low back. So it would be around the spine. The spine would be in the middle, and then each pad would be on the mother's lower back. And then the mother is given the unit, and she's taught how to use it, and she gets to control it. And it's not exactly clear how a TENS unit works, but it's believed that it sort of short circuits pain sensations. It sort of distracts the body for the time that it's being used. And so that distraction to the nerve system can actually reduce the pain of contractions. So I do encourage that you look at using a TENS unit. It's even great, if you have sore muscles from a workout. I have used them on a sore shoulder and that sort of thing as well. Soaking in a warm tub or taking a warm shower are wonderful, wonderful things for labor. Now, if your water has already broken, you do not want to get into a warm tub because the amniotic sac has ruptured, and that means that germs from the tub water can get up into the vagina, up into the cervix, and could cause infection. So if your water has broken, do not get into the bathtub, but you can still take a warm shower. And for every woman I've ever talked to who has gotten into a warm tub or has taken a warm shower during labor has talked about how it helps so, so much. There's just something about that warm water that augments the pain of each contraction and helps to reduce it. You can also use hot or cold compresses or pads. If you have a rice bag, for instance, you can heat that up in the microwave for about a minute, minute and a half, somewhere in there. Make sure it's safe to go in the microwave first. If you buy one from a manufacturer, make sure you follow all of the directions that came with the product. Heat that rice bag up for about a minute, minute and a half, and you can place that on the mother's lower back, or if there's another part of her body she'd like it on, you can do that as well. A cold compress, this is where you would have it could be another rice bag that you keep in the refrigerator. You could put that on the mother's neck, on top of her shoulders. That may help her. Lots of times mothers get very hot when they're in labor, so that can help cool her off and bring her some comfort. Changing positions and using a birth ball are so incredibly important. If you remember back to the first class, at the very, very beginning, one of the things I brought up was that it's very important to move around, walk around, and not lie down while you are in labor. And this is because you need to use gravity to your best advantage. Gravity is what's helping your baby move down. Gravity works with your uterus and with the baby that knows that it's time for it to be born. And when you're changing positions and moving around, you are helping that baby to rotate and get into position. There is, something unique to our species. I don't know. I don't even think that we share this with chimpanzees, which share something like 95% of the same DNA we have. Chimpanzees don't even have these same birth issues. Our Homo sapiens brains and heads are so large at birth that it takes much longer for our species to push our babies out than other species. And not only can our babies not just simply come out any position they're in, they need to be head down, of course, and they need to be rotated in just a specific way for the best results, for mother to be comfortable, for baby to be able to come out in an efficient way. And it's because we have these big, productive, smart brains. And that head needs to be turned in just such a way, and we'll talk more about that later, so that baby's head can fit through the birth canal, including all of those bony structures of the pelvis. So when you are changing positions and you can be lightly bouncing on a birth ball, you can be walking, you can be doing lunges in between contractions. Every one of those movements and gravity are helping your baby to move down and rotate so that he or she can get their head down into the birth canal in an efficient way. Using a rebozo. So what is a rebozo? We're going to talk a little bit more about it later. A rebozo is a cultural tool from Mexico, and it's extremely variable. It's very versatile. It can be used as a baby carrier. So mothers have been known to use them to tie around them in a cross carry and carry their babies in the rebozo. But during the birth process, a rebozo is used to help the mother change positions and also be aided by the rebozo. We'll talk about it more later, but it's this wonderful cultural cloth. And I highly encourage, if you're going to get a rebozo, please look at rebozos that are made in Mexico. Some of them are still made by local artisans, and they definitely deserve to have their income supported with as wonderful a tool as the rebozo is. So let's talk about slow breathing and visualization some more. So here are some examples that you can practice, and you need to pick the ones, and you may come up with one on your own. You need to pick the one that works for you. You can envision your cervix as a blooming flower, and this is a wonderful visualization. Or you can picture your cervix as melting butter. And this was one that, for some weird reason, just worked for me during my second birth. I just envisioned it as just this butter that was sitting, on a warm skillet, and it was just melting into nothing. And that was what helped me get through my second labor. You can repeat a word. You pick the word that works for you. One of them might be open, open. Or if there's another word, you use that word for you. You can either just repeat it in your mind or you can say it out loud. You want to have each inhale during your contraction last at least 4 seconds, and you want each exhale to last at least 5 seconds. And the reason you want your exhale to be a little bit longer than your inhale is because that little bit longer exhale is actively kicking your vagus nerve into gear. Anytime you let out more air longer with your exhale than you took in your inhale, you are automatically activating your vagus nerve. So that's one of the reasons why yoga is so relaxing and wonderful. So let's just practice this for a moment. So let's do a 4-second inhale. And exhale. All right, so you continually do that during your contractions, and that will help you to activate your vagus nerve, which will relax your body and help remove any clenching you might have, which also helps your baby to move down. And it will also help you to cope with your contractions a little bit better. It definitely is a big contributor to comfort. Your partner and your doula, they perform a very important role here to support you during your contractions and during labor. They will help you remember to slow your breath, to do those, they can even count for you, those 4-second inhales and those 5-second exhales. They can also remind you to, if you're feeling like this when you're having a contraction, they can remind you to bring it down. So that you say to yourself, or you can make the guttural sounds. This will help you so much to relax and to get through that contraction. And your partner and your doula can also help you to remember what it was that you wanted to visualize during your labor and birth. So if it's a blooming flower or melting butter or something else that's important to you, they'll be able to remind you, picture this. So what is the real key to having the birth that you want? It's this magical thing called a birth plan. A birth plan tells your care providers what you want and don't want during your labor and birth. And it used to be that not that long ago that people really didn't create birth plans and care providers didn't ask for them. But they got more and more popular, and it helped care providers to do a better job, to get better results, to have happier moms and better births. And so they started asking. So you probably have been asked by your OB or a labor and delivery nurse or your midwife, hey, how about your birth plan? We want to see your birth plan. Share it with us. And they'll probably want to see it somewhere, I'm guessing, around week 36 or later for sure. So your birth plan will specify how you want to labor and push your baby out at your birthing place. And it also outlines what procedures you want or you don't want after your baby is born. So it's really very empowering. When I work with a family to develop a birth plan, we'll spend an hour and a half sitting down talking about every aspect of the birth plan. And really, it gives me an opportunity to educate the parents on all of the different things that they'll be asked, all of the different procedures that they may be offered. And these are things that they may not think about on their own. But when they're walked through it one by one, it is so empowering, and it can give that birthing family so much more confidence when they're going into the process. The birth plan also has details of your wishes if there are birth complications. I very much encourage everyone to think about, if you plan on having a vaginal birth, it means pushing your baby out yourself, please include something in your birth plan that addresses cesarean section. And that is because you just can't be certain that you're going to get the vaginal birth that you want. you may end up having to go in for a C-section if there are complications. So please do address that. It's not, C-section is not one of those things that you want to just pretend doesn't exist. You want to leave it unaddressed. You really do want to think about it so that it is, C-section is still something that you have some control over, even if you have to have one. So in the video description below, you will see a link or 2 links to free documents that can help you create a birth plan for your own birth. So take a look at those. Make sure you look in the video description, and please make the most of those. They are so incredibly valuable in empowering birthing families and helping you have the best birth for you. So I've talked a lot about the role of birth partners and doulas. How can a birth partner and a doula help you during your birth? And it's also really important to acknowledge here that not everyone is going to have a romantic partner with them when they're giving birth, and that is perfectly okay. I'm not aware of any birthing places that would not be accepting of that would not be encouraging of a birthing mother who does not have a romantic partner. So her birth partner could be a best friend. It could be her sister. It could be her mother, a cousin, aunt, a pastor, for instance. The important thing is that all mothers should have a birth partner in that laboring room with her, encouraging her, loving her, and being unconditionally supportive of her. And you can also have a doula present. And a doula can be additional help over a partner, because sometimes a birth partner needs to go to the bathroom or needs to get something to eat or needs to get some rest. And that doula can then step in and take the place of that birth partner during that time when the birth partner needs a break. So it's really important, that doula does not replace a birth partner in any way. That doula is simply a supplement to that birth partner. So how does a birth partner help? How does a doula help? So for your best birth, your birth partner will support you in all phases of labor: early labor, the active labor phase, and pushing baby out. Your birth partner will help you feel safe and supported. This goes along with the 4th P of the 4 Ps of labor and birth, the psyche, the mother's mental well-being. All mothers must feel safe and supported before she can successfully push her baby out. The birth partner will help you stay emotionally focused on you and your baby. This is such an important role, as I mentioned on a previous screen, that the birth partner can remind the mother to bring her voice down into low registers, to have the visuals that mother wanted to have for her birth, and to recognize that this labor is not going to go on forever. It is going to end, and it is productive pain, and it is going to put that baby in your arms in just a short bit. A birth partner will also help you support your wishes. If you are having contractions and they're hard, you can say to your birth partner or your doula, hey, please tell the nurse I need this or that. And if the mother is telling a birth partner or a doula, please help me get this or that, that person will help. This is so incredibly important. That mother may need water. She may need lights off. She may need fewer people in the room. The birth partner is so important in communicating with the care providers that mother needs something. If you add a doula to your birth team, that doula can help you answer questions about pregnancy, labor, and birth. There are so many questions that a new mother feels when she's in labor. Do you think I'm dilating? Do you think I'm effacing? What do you think about this, my contractions so far? I'm having pain in my back. What does that mean? What can I try next? These questions, it's natural to have questions about something that is so deeply affecting a new mother. And a doula is such a wealth of knowledge and can be so encouraging and so supportive. And that alone can be really empowering to a mother to know that she has that resource available to help answer questions. A doula can also write your birth plan. You may not have to do it yourself because most doulas will do that for you. And your doula may have her own template that she uses to write that birth plan. A doula will also be able to help you identify when you're in active labor. And this is something that doulas get over time from watching births, from watching women labor, and getting an idea of how that mother is feeling at that moment, that a doula can get a pretty good feel of, yeah, I think we're moving into active labor territory. And a doula will also advocate your wishes to your care providers. If you tell your doula, like I mentioned earlier, that you need something, you need water, you need a snack, you need fewer people in the room, if the mother doesn't feel at that moment that she can ask for it, she can communicate that to her doula or her birth partner, and that those two will be able to communicate that to the care providers. So if you get a doula, the important thing to know for when to text and call a doula, I have this little cheat sheet, and I'm also going to provide a link to this in the video description below. You'll be able to download this free cheat sheet, and I encourage everyone I work with to put this on the refrigerator somewhere in, the early third trimester, so that they really just burn it into their memory. So if you have a doula, you can text your doula when you notice these soft labor signs. You've noticed that your baby has dropped, and that is a feeling where you almost feel like you have a bowling ball just sitting between your legs. That's called lightening. And if you lose some of your mucus plug, which is typically kind of looks like snot, you might find that on your toilet paper when you're wiping in the bathroom. You might find it in your panties when you're going to the bathroom. It's just kind of, it'll be some stringy snot-like material there that you'll find. And that is the mucus plug that normally plugs up the cervix and keeps germs and everything out of the cervix. Your mucus plug does regenerate, so you may continually lose it throughout your labor, because it will, as the cervix thins and opens up, that mucus plug, parts of it will drop out, but then it will regenerate. So you may be continuously losing this mucus plug. If you feel the urge to nest and get ready for baby, and that may be, I have a relative who talked about how when she was in labor, early labor, she had this incredible desire to scrub the floor. So she was on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor. That was definitely nesting. Kind of a weird thing to do in nesting, and she acknowledged it. But that's definitely a very normal part of nesting. It may be doing a ton of baby laundry. It may be going through your hospital bag again and again to make sure you're not missing anything that you'll need in the hospital. So if you're feeling that incredible urge to nest, just text your doula and just send her a quick note that, hey, I can just not stop packing and repacking my hospital bag. If you feel restless and irritable, now this may be something that you're feeling for the last, 4 to 6 weeks of pregnancy, because oh boy, and especially depending on the time of year. I did have one baby at the hottest time of the year, and man, you are not feeling great at that point. So, you can always just update your doula via text every day and just say, oh man, I'm just feeling so miserable. And your doula will have encouraging words or maybe some ideas for you. If you start to experience nausea or diarrhea at the end of your pregnancy, that can also be your body preparing for labor, because essentially your body really wants your digestive tract to be mostly cleared out, so that your body can put all of its energy towards pushing that baby out rather than digesting food and moving it through the digestive tract. So your body, and also nausea may go along with, your body may want to empty your stomach, so it's not dealing with stuff that it has to digest and move through the system. So if you're experiencing nausea and maybe even throwing up, or you're having diarrhea, that can certainly be a soft labor sign. If you have cramping in the front, which feels similar to period cramps, or you have back discomfort, go ahead and text your doula. Your doula will have some questions for you about the back discomfort, the intensity of the discomfort, when you feel it, if it's constant, if you've tried this or that. And your doula will also make recommendations, most likely putting a hot rice bag on your lower back, or soaking in the bathtub, or taking a shower, having a massage, pushing on pressure points, that sort of thing. But you should share that information with your doula, because that is helpful and important stuff to know. Now, you want to call your doula, not text, when you notice these hard labor signs. So if your water breaks, you definitely want to call your doula and tell her. Now, you may not know, you may be kind of questioning, did my water break or did I just pee on myself? You can, if you can have the fluid that's dripping, if you can have that, catch it on some white toilet paper, on a white maxi pad or something, and look at it. And if it is not the color that your urine normally is, and it's also if it's continually coming out, it is most likely your water has broken. Now, it is possible for your water to break and then stop and not leak anymore for a little while. And that's because there are actually two amniotic sacs. And there is an outer one, and then the inner one that holds everything else, that holds the bulk of the fluids and the baby. The outer one can tear and break during labor, and just a little bit of fluid leaks out. And then what often happens is that baby's head can drop down a little bit and plug up that hole. And that can also happen even if the larger bag of waters breaks. Baby's head is possible. It is possible for baby's head to be almost like a drain plug in the bathtub, and cutting off that water leakage, at least for a little while. Eventually, the water will continue to drip out as baby moves down. If you're having strong contractions on a regular schedule, like I was talking about, if you're having them consistently every 10 minutes, every 8 minutes, every 5 minutes, hopefully your doula, is already with you at about 5 minutes anyway, to kind of help you navigate the decision of whether or not to go to the hospital. But if your contractions are very consistent, and that means every 8 minutes, for instance, then definitely let your doula know. If they're all over the board, text your doula. If your contractions are 5 minutes, and then 7 minutes, and then 12 minutes, and then 4 minutes, and then 8 minutes, that's not regular. I would say just text your doula at that point. But once they become very consistent, time-wise, make sure you call your doula and let her know. If you notice bloody show, now what the heck is bloody show? Bloody show is a very good sign that your cervix is dilating, is effacing and dilating very effectively. And bloody show is going to be a streak of red blood. It's not going to be blood pouring out of you by any means. It's just going to be a streak of blood, of clear blood. You know that it's blood. It's not pink. It's not brown. It is a streak of blood on toilet paper, for instance, white toilet paper, or on a maxi pad that you may have on. If you're seeing that blood streak and you don't see blood dripping out of you, then that is bloody show. If you ever see blood dripping out of you late in pregnancy, always go to the ER immediately. Go to the closest ER. You want to be safe. You want to take care of yourself and your baby. If you're feeling anxious and you need support, please call your doula. Your doula is there to help you feel empowered and confident and strong during the labor process. So call your doula if you feel like you just can't deal with what you're experiencing at that moment. Now, if your water breaks, there's something extremely important that you and your partner take note of. You need to have a pen and paper handy. So you can either remember it as taco or coat, whatever you prefer. I like tacos. Sometimes that's, it's kind of fun, makes it fun. So anyway, it all means the same thing. So taco would be, what time did your water break? And so T, time, what time did it break? A is amount. How much fluid was there? Was it just a little bit, or was it a lot? Or is it just a regular trickle that's just running down mom's leg? C is, what is the color of this fluid? It can be an off-white, very clear. If it's, if it's water and it's totally normal water breaking. And O is odor. What is the odor? Now, when your water breaks, it should have just a very natural odor like anything else in your vaginal area. It's, going to have just a very natural smell. It should not smell bad. It should not be anything but a slight off white. It's actually clear. So, but maybe it'll have a slightly yellowish tinge, maybe just a little bit. Might be slightly cloudy. But if you're seeing anything that differs from that, brownish, red, greenish, smells bad, anything like that, you need to call your labor and delivery department or your midwife immediately and let them know. And make sure that your partner or your doula writes all of this information down about the time, the amount, the color, and the odor when your water breaks. You will be asked this, I promise, so be ready. So that brings us to the end of our second class in the series. Our next class, class number 3, we will talk about how to reduce pain and discomfort in labor. We've done a little bit of that so far, but we're going to go more into detail about comfort measures in labor. We're going to look at acupressure points and other innovative comfort techniques. And we'll also discuss back pain in labor and ways that you can alleviate back pain. And important ways for you to help move your baby down. That is so incredibly important. You can dilate and efface. You can efface and dilate all you want. If that baby is at a high station, remember when we talked about stations in lesson 1 in class 1, when baby is in a high station, meaning high in the pelvis, got to get that baby down before it can be born. And then a key thing, what not to do late in pregnancy. So thank you for joining me. I enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing you in our next class.
If you're located in the Sacramento, California area, you can also take classes with me in person. Watch this tutorial to find out how you can register. To sign up for classes, visit southgaterecandpark.net and visit the Recreation menu. Click on Register for Programs. Then scroll down on the next page and click on the Register Now button. Go up to the Activities menu in the upper left-hand corner and click on Special Interest Classes. You'll see Childbirth Education pop up at the top. Click View Sub-Activities to see the available classes, and then click on an individual class to read the description, the dates, and the times. And when you're ready to sign up, click Create an Account in the upper right-hand corner, enter your email address, and then follow the prompts to register. I look forward to seeing you back here at this channel, or in person if you decide to take classes with me. Watch the video series so that you too can have the best birth for your family. Have a beautiful day.